Jean-Pascal Tricoire is the chairman and CEO of Schneider Electric, which is a global corporation with 180,000 employees and revenues of $31 billion. The company specializes in energy management and automation. In other words, they're bringing efficiency to the world, they're bringing intelligence to the world, and they're right in the middle of the Internet of Things revolution. So before we get into the details of business trends that Jean-Pascal is seeing around the world, Jean-Pascal is headquartered in Hong Kong now, and with 100 countries, he gets a great view of what's going on globally. And you just came from New York, where you were at Climate Week and meeting with a lot of global leaders, both in business and in government. So the question is, and we talked a little bit about this yesterday with Chad Holliday, but if you're a business, should you care about, should you worry about what's going to happen coming out of Paris in December, or is it something you can ignore? What's your reading on the importance of what's going on for COP21?
Yeah, well, I don't know where you pick me to speak about Paris. Probably my funny way of speaking English. But anyway, I'm gonna pick on the subject. I think you should be well. First, good morning to all of you. But I think we should be neither worried nor fearing what is coming in Paris. It's just part of a very strong evolution of the environment. We spend a large part of the weekend at the United Nations. Companies and countries representatives together. On the topic of that dialogue was to exchange and to see what were the opportunities and difficulties to go to a world that is more sustainable, less energy consuming, less emitting carbon, and that kind of. On the funny thing that I found on Saturday morning, we had companies saying recurrently, "Give us a price of carbon." And why is that? Because as companies, okay, we can live with constraints, but we want something which is predictable. Mm-hmm. We want an environment where we can make decisions in a predictable way. And today you've got carbon pricing systems around the world, but they are either dysfunctional or not really predictable. So today there is what is appearing to me is that Paris will be another milestone to a world which is more sustainable. I've been participating to those conferences in the past 5 to 10 years. Every time the media says they are a failure, but every time I see that companies are taking more commitments and countries are taking more commitments. 5 years ago, you still had a lot of people who were very skeptical about some issues on climate change. That's not happening in most of the cases or in most of the places where I go. What I see today is that people who are really moving the whole game are companies, because companies are taking pledges, they are taking commitments. That's in the US, that's in Europe. Then you have many geographies today taking very strong commitments in making the world more energy efficient, more renewable. On the big thing which is happening at the same time is that technology is moving very fast, and we are coming at, according to me, at the right point in time, mm-hmm, where technology can make all of this happen.
In terms of pricing carbon, President Xi of China, when he came to this country this week, announced a national cap and trade system. Now, you know China very well. You're headquartered in Hong Kong. There's a lot of skepticism in this country about whether China can actually enforce a cap and trade system. What's your take on that?
Well, I think people are not very fair normally in the West with China. I mean, China is a country which has developed the biggest number of people in the shortest number of years and brought 600 million people to the level of middle class. Never happened in the world history before. I mean, 600 million people in 20 years. And it has hit the wall of sustainability. The biggest political problem that you have in China today is not the carbon price, it's the fact that if you live in Beijing, in Shanghai, in Guangzhou, you are choked by the particles in the air. And today, this story of quality of air, energy consumption, emission of particles, and carbon emission has become a top a top part of any political agenda. So, and you have to be recognizing to the Chinese government that they go by a 5 years plan. So during the 11th 5 years plan, which was 5 years ago, they decreased the carbon intensity or the energy density per point of GDP by 20%. On everybody at KPI on that one. Everybody was measured on one. Every region, every city, every company. In the 12th 5 years plan, which is finishing now, they managed 17%. But it's still not enough. It's still not enough because the speed of development, the concentration, the density of population is such that it's unmanageable with that. So I think President Xi is very serious about that for many reasons. It's about his energy dependency from the other countries. It's about the quality of air on the public opinion in the cities where you have the largest number of voters. And they will make it. You have already 6 or 7, I don't remember. I think it's 7 regional carbon trade systems working together. It's decided to make it 1 in 2 years' time. I've been through many changes in China, like VAT applied on the 1st of January. Nobody knew, that was in the 90s, I was living there. Nobody knew how it would be applied. Well, during 6 months, we kind of muddled through. But 6 months after, there was a VAT. Convertibility of the foreign exchange currency happened in 1 day. Right. We muddled through it again 6 months, but it happened. I think he's really decided to make it happen. You have today in the world 40 countries with a carbon trade system or with an ETS system on 20 sub-regions. So this, I think companies like ours, we are asking for a price because we want an architecture, a frame in which we can build sound and reasonable decisions.
And have predictability, which is
exactly
so important to business. Let's switch the topic now to the Internet of Things. What is the Internet of Things?
Well, the Internet of Things is, I'm going to say something which has become common wisdom now, but Internet, 20 years of existence, and it has connected people to people, 2 billion people. In the next coming 5 years, we connect 2 more billion people, but we're going to connect 40 billion machines to the Internet. So it's your car, it's your fridge, it's everything around you. And it seems, and we have been doing that at Schneider for the past 20 years. Actually, we designed in Boston, in our lab in Boston, something called Transparent Factory, which was bringing the Ethernet at the level of shop floor manufacturing. And at that time, it was denounced by the whole profession, like too expensive, not predictable enough, too difficult to use on real-time environment. We've stubbornly kept going on that, and today everything we do, building control, home control, industry control, data center control, is all based on the Ethernet. What does it bring? There is a lot of inefficiency in the world of today. We don't use properly our environment, and we don't use properly our energy. Best example are the buildings. In the buildings, every time we apply our technology, you can save at least 30% of energy by doing something which is very simple, which is switching off when people are not in a room, not in an office, not using a facility. Best example would be universities, education places, which are normally empty 50% of the time. If you let machine, and we don't, you can't rely on me or on you to do it. You don't switch off your lights, you don't adjust the thermostats and stuff. I don't do it either because we have no time. So if you let the machine do it, you save immediately 30% of energy. And there were 2 things that made it difficult before, which was it was complicated to interface with the Ethernet. Now we all have a mobile phone in our pocket, and that's become our natural interface to that technical world. And the second point is that connecting everything to the Ethernet brings connectivity to other applications, which makes that your buildings or your industry, your data center, your solar plant will interact with outside information. I'll take the example of Schneider. We started to do smart buildings, solar plants, and the big problem, recurrent problem, is weather forecast, water networks, what's coming in the direction of our region, a cold wave, a heat wave, a storm. So we developed our own service of weather forecasts adapted to technical facilities. And today in the US, we are the leader in providing those kind of, starting by the needs of our technical things, right? So today I'm very proud that we advise the Red Sox in Boston in trying to forecast if there is a storm coming on the stadium.
It didn't really help them this year, did it?
No, right. That's a painful one.
So
right?
be thinking of some questions. Quickly here, give us an example of the Internet of Things. I know you've worked with the city of Boston, speaking of the Red Sox, and helped them improve their efficiency. What did you do exactly? What kind of outcomes did
Well, yeah, and it's not all about Boston, but we have a big center of R&D in Boston. But in Boston, we are applying technology to 350 public buildings, to more than 60,000 public lighting, to 800 traffic light systems. And what we do is measuring all the energy which is consumed there, and bringing on all the waste. Water, gas, and stuff, so that the municipality can manage it better. And then we are applying another software, which in our jargon of today would be called analytics, to improve the demand side. That means making sure that those buildings and all those facilities are consuming when it makes sense. You were asking what is the impact of the Internet of Things connecting to people, connecting to the environment. There is a double efficiency today. We don't switch off. The second thing is that we all consume at the same time. If we start using the machines to consume at the right moment, that means when energy is plentiful, green, and cheap, which can be nighttime or when there is some sun, then we get a double efficiency. And this is what we do in those kind of applications.
Okay, questions out here for Jean-Pascal? It's hard to see over the... There we go, right here. Can you get the mic? We have two questions, okay.
Trissa Thompson with Dell. I'm curious how you decide when to invest ahead of the curve, a little bit before the demand on sustainability, or if you wait till the demand exists for your solutions.
I would love to say that we always invested at the right point in time, and I am so sorry to tell you that many times we invested just too much ahead of time. But it's all about innovation, right? When you have an idea like connecting, well, it starts by saving energy, establishing a profile of consumption, connecting it to profiles of supply coming from the grid, putting a demand response system in the middle, using the Ethernet and the Internet to the full of their possibilities to make that workable. What we try is, as we do that in 100 countries, in multiple applications, data centers, buildings, industry, homes, it's really try, test, fail, test it maybe in another geography. There are maybe some systems which are making less sense in the US that are making sense in Germany because of the price or the profile of energy. So we have communities of people doing that all over the world. Yeah. And then once something sticks to the wall, then we scale it through the rest of Schneider. I don't know if I answer your question.
One short question here. I can't believe how quickly the time is going. Can we have the mic right down here at the front, please? Excuse me, get that right here. We had just very quickly. Thank you.
Quick question. Jules Kortenaars, Rocky Mountain Institute. We've been bragging about the opportunities of energy efficiency for a very long time, and so often they pay 15, 20, 25% IRR. And yet business leaders de-emphasize those investment opportunities over ones that create market growth or new businesses. How do we change behavior, particularly in the business and built environment arena, when it comes to energy efficiency?
That's really a great question and a huge frustration on my side. When you speak about energy, it's always about ideology, nuclear, non-nuclear, shale gas, non-shale gas, whatever, wind, solar, things. Because it's great from the media point of view, no blame. But every time you have an ideological debate, it's great for the titles. There is one place which makes the agreement of all, that the International Energy Agency says it should be 50% of the investment if you want to resolve everything. Paybacks, if you use active energy efficiency, Ethernet-based, Internet-based, 2 to 5 years. More today, across 2 years, it's energy efficiency. And nobody speaks about it. Why? I've come to a conclusion after working on it for the past 30 years that it's because you don't inaugurate energy efficiency. You inaugurate a big solar plant, a big windmill stuff, a big contract. Energy efficiency is very cheap. It has a fast payback, but it's very scattered. That's one. Second point is that we have not trained people to those new technologies. So today we are still in the old paradigm. Third point, I would tell you that smart companies have understood it from a long time ago. And we do at Schneider, every 3 years, we cut our consumption by 10%. And this is as much money that we put into growth. But I tell you, we know plenty of our customers. The smart customers are full speed on energy efficiency. They don't speak that much about shale, not shale, nuclear, non-nuclear. They are cutting their consumption because it makes you more competitive and less exposed to energy volatility.
Okay, well, we've run out of time. We're going to have a ribbon-cutting ceremony at your next efficiency project, Jean-Pascal.
You're all invited.
Let's hear it for Jean-Pascal.